I hope you are doing really, really well. I have got a super exciting video for you today. I am finally gonna answer the question that everyone is asking, the one you all want to know the answer to. Is this just a 1980s mountain bike? I've showed you my Marin DSX2, the flat bar gravel bike, a couple of times now in various different iterations, standard, stock mode, the way it came sent to me from Marin, and then recently I've converted it to a kind of more deluxe version using parts from my sponsors at Zip and Shroud. Anyway, so every time I post anything about the flat bar gravel bike, I am inundated with comments and people saying that's just a 1980s mountain bike, or occasionally that's just a hybrid. And some people get really quite shirty about it. Some people are offended by this bike. No, not just because it's brown, but because it dare proclaim that it is a gravel bike. So I thought it was about time that we looked closer at this matter and decided once and for all whether this is indeed actually just a mountain bike from the 80s. So let's begin. Shall we start at the front? Seems like a sensible place so I don't miss anything that is different to a 1980s mountain bike. So in the 80s you would have had a threaded quill stem, you would not have had a stem or steerer or head tube or fork the same as this. You would tend to have a 1-inch steerer all the way down, which would mean that it was less rigid but also less good at absorbing vibrations. Nowadays you're far more likely to get a tapered fork and tapered head tube as well. So you go from 1 1/8 of an inch to 1.5 inches down the bottom, and you've got a carbon fork as well. So I mean that would just never ever be on a mountain bike in the 80s. Bars, you'd have had narrow bars. You wouldn't have nice, comfy, wide bars like we have on this little beauty. There's no way you had trigger shifters like this in the 80s, so the way you changed gear is vastly different. Let's have a look at the brakes. Well, I never! We've only got bloody disc brakes on here. Pretty sure they didn't have them in the 80s now, did they? Let's have a quick look at the tyre clearance. Ooh, plenty of room for big tyres in there. Oh, and speaking of tyres and wheels, they're not 26-inch, are they? So what is it that makes this a mountain bike from the 80s? Let's investigate further. I feel we need to take a look at the drivetrain. Well, clearly there's a bit of a difference here because I don't have a triple chain set at the front. I've got one by, so one chainring at the front and a big old bunch of gears at the back. In the 80s, you might have seen a chainring the size of the biggest sprocket on my cassette here. You could quite easily have a 52-tooth chainring, and you'd have a giant big triple chain set at the front, which weighed a lot and also required, you know, the addition of a front mech. Obviously, I don't even have a front mech. I've just got the rear mech. Having a one-by system like this means that I have still got ample gears, but I'm not carrying around the extra weight. I don't need the extra tech. It just keeps things simple. And this is something that just would never have been seen way back in the 80s. You know, like most of the rest of this bike, the tech just didn't exist. When it comes to the frame itself, I guess it depends exactly what era we are comparing this to, because in the 80s you would have had steel mountain bikes, but then that did start to transition into aluminium, which this is. But the question isn't whether this could be a 1980s frame, it's whether this could be a 1980s mountain bike, and 'twould appear not. So what I want to ask you is, what is it about this bike that so winds you up if you are one of the people that gets annoyed about this being called a flat bar gravel bike? The fact that this gravel bike has got flat bars on it doesn't mean it's suddenly not a gravel bike. If I put flat bars on my TT bike, it would still be a TT bike, but with flat bars. It would be a flat bar TT bike. So just putting these bars on my gravel bike does not make it a mountain bike, does it? What do you think anyway? Do you think there is a place in the world for a bike like this, or do you think that those mean, nasty bike brands are taking the mick and trying to steal all our money by offering us bikes like this? Personally, I think this is a fun bike to me. It does fall into the gravel bike category. It's not a mountain bike and I wouldn't want to ride it for mountain biking. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this little video about my offensive bike. Do leave me your thoughts in the comments below, and give me a thumbs up if you like the video and a sub if you like the channel. See you later. Bye.